During one of the lowest moments of my life, I wrote this. Maybe if I just do my laundry tomorrow, I'll feel better. I know that's not true, but I like to hold on to the idea. Perhaps clean clothes mean a clean slate. Perhaps I'd feel washed of all my wrongdoings. I think if I just clean my room tomorrow, I'll feel relief as I splash water into the sink, look up at my tired eyes, glassed over and stained. That pile of junk has been sitting in the corner of my room for months. I just need to sort through it. I just need to find what's hurting. Maybe if I take a hot shower tomorrow, I'll feel better. I don't fit into my skin very well, so maybe it will melt right off. It always feels a size too small or big. Maybe if I do my laundry tomorrow, I'll feel better. So I can wash myself clean and stop going in circles. When I wrote that, I was so deeply depressed and going through the exact same cycle every day. And I kept convincing myself that if I could just magically get myself together, magically stop being depressed, then everything would get better. But I didn't understand that that's not how it works. So I wrote this poem saying that, maybe if I just wash my laundry, I'll feel better. And of course, from a very realistic standpoint, that's a little bit ridiculous. It's a little bit ridiculous to say that, if you just wash your clothes, you'll feel better. That's not how it works. But I was more holding on to this notion that I just needed to fix myself, that I just needed to clean myself from the inside out, and then I would feel better. It was desperate. I was completely alone with what I was feeling, and I didn't know what to do. I just kept getting worse every single day. I couldn't even get out of bed to wash my laundry. I kept re-wearing the same clothes. Depression is not a pretty illness. It does not treat you well. There's nothing glamorous about it. And a lot of people don't like to talk about the not glamorous parts of depression, like not being able to do your laundry. I know to somebody who doesn't struggle with their mental health, it sounds ridiculous to say that you literally couldn't do a simple task like laundry or brushing your teeth. But it's something that you can't really understand until you've experienced it. Depression holds you down. It stops you from being able to do the most small, menial tasks. And it's very difficult. I want to share my own personal experience with depression in relation to this poem that I wrote. It's from my book, I Feel Everything All the Time. I want to talk about how difficult depression is and how it tricks us into going after the wrong things, how it tricks us into thinking we can just magically heal, and how it stops us from doing the little things. This is a part of a new series I'm starting where I go through different poems in my book and I just talk about them and I talk about what I was feeling at the time. So thanks so much for being here, and let's feel some feelings. Looking back, it's hard to imagine that I woke up every single day feeling as bad as I did. It's very hard, even now, as somebody who went through it. I experienced depression, and I still do. It's still there. I believe it never truly goes away. You just learn how to cope. You learn how to deal with it better. You learn how to live with it, and you learn how to treat yourself well. But at my lowest point, when the depression was the heaviest, and I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know how to cope, and I didn't know how to treat myself well, life felt impossible. And even now, looking back, even though I went through that, it is hard to picture exactly what it felt like, and it is hard to imagine how it completely screeched my life to a halt. I couldn't do laundry. I could barely bring myself to brush my teeth. I would go days and days and days without showering, sometimes even longer. It wasn't glamorous, and it wasn't pretty. And I think this poem is a reflection of that. A lot of people like to talk about depression in the way, it makes you isolate. We understand that. It's a heavy feeling. It makes you feel sad. It makes you feel numb. You lose interest in things. We understand that, but we don't talk about the not glamorous side of depression. The not being able to do laundry, the thinking, if I can just do my laundry, maybe I'll feel better. If I can just shower, if I can just brush my teeth. It absolutely does bring relief, and it is so important to put effort into doing those things, but it feels so impossible in the moment. Even now, looking back, it's hard to imagine. There's so much stigma around mental illness, depression, anxiety, personality disorders, bipolar. There's so much stigma still because it is hard to imagine what it feels like. If you haven't personally experienced mental illness, it is so difficult to imagine that a simple task like doing laundry can feel impossible. It can feel impossible, yet it feels like a way out. And you just go in circles over and over and over, day to day, trying desperately to get better. And yet always feeling like you're at square one. It's a hard feeling, and I went through that for years. Depression keeps you from doing the simplest things, and it feels kind of like torture because you know what you have to do. You know that you are supposed to do certain things and that it's supposed to make you feel better. You know that you're supposed to do your laundry. You know that you're supposed to talk to people and you're supposed to get out of the house and maybe get professional help. Yet it's not that simple. It's never that simple. For years, I did know what I had to do. I did the research. I did the work. I knew how to work my way out of this mental illness. Simply put, I knew how to feel better. It sounds ridiculous, but I knew the exact steps that I needed to take in order to feel better from this intense sadness, this intense mental illness that I was feeling, but I felt stuck. I could hardly get out of bed, and I couldn't do the things that I knew I needed to do, and that's one of the most frustrating parts, and that all comes back to this poem. Maybe if I do my laundry tomorrow, I'll feel better. I knew that I needed to do this, and I knew that it would make me feel better, but it felt impossible. That pile of junk that had been sitting in the corner of my room for months, I just needed to sort through it. Yet I couldn't even sort through the emotions that I was feeling. Depression is cruel, it is unfair, and it halts your life in its tracks. So I want to speak directly to you. If you are dealing with depression or any kind of mental illness right now, and you roughly know the steps that you need to take, maybe you've been doing some research, maybe you have talked to a friend, and you figured out what it is that you need to do, yet you feel completely frozen in place. And every time you try to get better, every time you start taking steps, you end up back at square one. I want to speak directly to you because I know how frustrating that is. It sucks to try to heal your mental health over and over again, yet always be back to square one. It sucks to put in so much effort, yet feel like you're never making any progress. But I want to tell you, every single time you try, and every single time you fail, and you think, what is wrong with me? I can't heal. You are slowly getting one step closer. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but what worked for me is starting ridiculously small. So instead of trying to do all of my laundry at once, instead of trying to do these big steps, instead of trying to go, if I do this, I will feel better. If I take this big step, I will feel better. I just started ridiculously small. For me, it would just be sitting in the shower as the water ran over me instead of fully going and taking a shower. Once again, that's hard to grasp if you haven't struggled with mental illness, but that's the spot that I was at. I just literally had to sit in the shower. I was so depressed, I couldn't even stand up. Maybe the tiny step is simply getting out of bed today and walking to get a glass of water. Maybe it's reaching out to a friend via text. Maybe it's just looking a few things up about potentially getting professional help. You have to start ridiculously small. You have to start so small that it doesn't feel like it's doing anything. Then slowly, month after month, year after year, you will have made progress without even realizing it. Does it ever truly go away? No. I live with this mental illness every single day, but it's not impossibly heavy as it used to be. It doesn't define me, and I'm able to cope and deal with it because I've lived with it. I know what I need to do now, and it's a lot easier to do those things because I kept going. Because I kept trying, because I started ridiculously small, and now laundry is not an impossible task. In fact, while I was recording this, my dryer just went off and my laundry is done for the day. That's something that was unimaginable just 3 or 4 years ago. I promise, it does get better. And one day, the weight of everything will be a little bit lighter. That's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Thank you for joining me on this slightly different episode. I'm going to try to do this once a week along with the regular Feel Your Feelings videos. If you want to get a copy of this book, you can get one on my website, ethanjewell.com. I'll link it down in the description. If you need help feeling your difficult feelings, check out my music on all platforms under the name of Ethan Jewell, and I almost guarantee it'll make you cry. Also, drop me a comment. Let's start the conversation on mental health. Let me know what you have been struggling with the most recently, and maybe try to identify some small steps that you're going to take to help heal. So, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for listening to this poem. And as always, thank you for feeling your feelings. I'll see you next time.